yeah. So for y'all who are about to watch this, today's recording is going to be far different than what we have done up till now. There is no official start time on the recording, and it does come to an abrupt end, which is actually really funny. But this is not a typical show. So to the Aerobicus group out there, I hope and pray y'all join us and just sit back and take in the real talk of life and death that we discuss throughout the next hour. So please enjoy the truthfulness and openness of what we have to share.
And leave your comments.
And yes, leave comments, questions, whichever you have, or both. So, but thank y'all, and I hope y'all enjoy.
Some Armenian.
Get some of that hantavirus on hantavirus, whatever you call it.
That was so dumb.
Their next fake pandemic.
My first thought when I heard about that, literally, my first thought was leave them on the boat.
Surely you've seen the videos of them unloading that boat, right? The guys in the white suits,
Yes.
full suits, right? The camera screws up and gets a wide shot, and here comes the other dude with the other camera that was getting the back angle of them. He ain't got not even a mask on, walking right behind him. It's like, oh, that's deadly right there. You know, I mean,
yeah.
My goodness.
When the first set of masks came out, and wanted people to require it and all that kind of business, I wouldn't do it. I didn't want a shot. And but my sister, that's when she had pancreatic cancer, and it was just a snap thing. I mean, she went to her doctor that she sees, and she wasn't feeling bad, nothing. And they just did a whatever kind of checkup. She's in Dallas. She lived in Arlington. And she and her best friend were driving back out toward Arlington to go to their favorite restaurant and eat. The doctor calls and said, "Turn around, come back." And that's when he told her she had pancreatic cancer. And probably wasn't going to make it because it was too far gone.
Oh my God.
And so I went up there and lived with her for about 8 months, took medical care of her. While Mary was in Frankston working and taking care of, also part-time care of her mother who had pancreatic cancer. So Mary and I didn't see each other for 8 months, but 3 times. And Sharon got to where she couldn't go anywhere. I finally drove her to town and we put her in a facility. She died about a week later.
Was she feeling bad beforehand? She just went into the doctor for a check.
Just checkup. It was a checkup.
And what blood test or something pulled up high white cell count?
Whatever it was, pulled it up, and that they knew by the time she went in, she was about halfway back, and she fought it. I mean, she fought it hard, but it came to the point where I could not give her care. I couldn't go into doctor's offices. I couldn't go into any place.
Oh, because of COVID.
Couldn't go in the hospital.
Mm-mm.
Couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So I took her down to the hospital downtown, Parkland, I guess it was, and said I took her in because we had to get an appointment for her to get her COVID shot. So I went in with her, and I'm sitting there, and all these people are in line, and there's complaints about, oh, you just got to give me one. I didn't get an appointment. I said, but you got, no, they were turning people away. just crazy. And I'm sitting there, no mask. And, the guy was dealing with Sharon, or the lady was dealing with Sharon. She looks at me, she goes, "Are you here to get a shot too?" And I said, "No, I'm not."
Mm-mm.
And but I wasn't going to give any kind of reason. It's none of her business. No.
Mhm.
And she goes, "Well, we can give you one right now if you want one." And she goes, "Because from this time forward, we ain't letting anybody in unless they've got it."
Mhm.
I said, "Well." So I consented. We got one because, sure enough, over the next 6 months, I couldn't take her anywhere.
But then, did you have to do the booster after that? Don't you have to keep that card? They give you the
I
card?
got a card.
Yeah, and you're supposed to keep it updated or whatever.
I got one booster, but I haven't done anything since.
They say, but I don't fully understand it. But one of the podcasts I listen to talks about, shedding, just our skin cells that we shed every day and all that. Basically, that by now we all got the vaccine because of that.
Mhm.
I
It's
got a
called
question
herd
for you.
immunity.
Since talking about cancer, so this is something that I have thought my entire life. I've watched a couple of family members, mainly one of Julie's uncles, who treated me from day one when he met me. He treated me like I was part of the family, because I moved to Oklahoma. Julie was going to OU, and I moved up there for a job, and I was installing car stereo, and fortunately I had a reputation from going to competitions and everything. It was easy for me to just go, "Hey, I'm looking for a job up there," and they're like, "Yeah, come on," and anyway, Calvin had a cough, a persistent cough. Him and his wife ended up getting a divorce after we left Oklahoma, and he got remarried, and he had this cough when he was married to his first wife. So, we're talking about years, 3 years, something like that. Just this annoying cough that he was self-diagnosing, and would eat cough drops like they were candy or whatever, and cough syrup or whatever. But anyway, watching Cal, he finally went in. His new wife made him go to the doctor. He went in. They ran some tests and found out that he had a tumor that had attached itself to both his heart and his lung, which made it inoperable.
Mhm.
They're like, "There's nothing we can do." And they told him, I think they gave him a year. From the time that he was diagnosed till the time he died was probably 6 months total. And he went from I think Calvin was either 6'8" or 6'9". Big dude. All his boys were monsters too, but Calvin was a big old guy, 280, 6'7", 6'8", whatever. And he was a bag of bones. I could have carried him out of the house by myself when he died, and he was at home, and his new wife had a medical background, so they had a hospice nurse come in. But anyway, not to drag out the story too long, but since getting back into my faith, I've had that thought, because I've always said, if they tell me, you've got cancer, and there's nothing we can do, soon as it gets to the point where I know I can't live a normal-ish life anymore, I'm not doing all the chemo, I'm not doing all the radiation, I realize you can't do it in the state of Texas or in the U.S., probably anywhere. Well, I think Washington you can or something maybe, but
What?
get a shot, go to sleep, and never wake up again.
In Texas you can. It is called physician-assisted suicide is what it's called. That's the legal term for it. And it is legal. The issue is, you have to find not just one physician to witness and sign off on it. You have to find two physicians that agree that we will put our names on this sheet of paper allowing this to happen. That's the problem with it.
Yeah.
Because I've always thought the same thing. It's just, I watched my best friend for 6 years fight cancer, and he died at the age of 21 and 24 days. And he fought and fought and fought, and I was up there with him in the hospitals and with his chemos and his radiations and this, that, and the other.
I just wonder how God looks at that.
I just,
Whether that's going to be a problem or not.
Well, can it take away your salvation?
I don't think it'd take away your salvation necessarily, but are you in your last act? You know, are you? I guess if you got the if they did it by an injection, you got the injection and then prayed for forgiveness. Does it wash out? Does God go? No, I don't think so. I told you not to kill, and you killed.
I think that was murder.
Well,
yes, and so
I don't know.
Can you murder yourself? I guess is the question.
Self-murder. No, but I watched Sharon struggle over that 8 months, and she fought it. She fought it hard. I was with her at every doctor's office and appointment. It prolonged her life a little bit, but on top of the pancreas, where those nerves come in, that tumor had gotten in amongst them, and they were trying to reduce that tumor so they could operate and take it out. They said, we can take that out, be fine. But it shrunk a little bit, and then it came back with pretty much gangbusters. And from that point on, it was just pain management.
Yeah.
And I think that I would go with, if there's not, at a point where it's agreed and it's known that I'm not going to make it, just put me on pain meds, and I'll live my normal life the best I can with whatever help I'll need. And if it shortens my life by 2 months, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Because I know where I'm going. I know my Redeemer lives. I know all those things. And with my last breath, I'll make sure all my stuff's in order. We have our wills. We have all that stuff written out. We've got all those orders and stuff. My estate is in order. And if I go, the dominoes fall, we know what they are. Mary goes, we know what the dominoes are.
Yeah.
And we go.
Well, at least y'all can talk about it. Because Julie will, if I bring the subject up, she don't want to hear it. You know, she don't want to hear anything about me signing a DNR. And I'm like, honey, I don't want to be on a ventilator, brain dead. If I'm dead, let me go, because that's not living. It's a machine keeping me alive, you know. And
let me go. It's okay.
Julie just found out one of her longtime friends and coworkers when she was at Heat, and she just lost her battle with lung cancer, and she passed away yesterday. And you know, right, Julie found out as she's walking into church this morning. You know, so she beeline from the door over to me.
I talked to her this morning, and briefly after she went up there to him.
Yeah,
I could tell she was visibly upset.
yeah, she was. She took it pretty hard. I'm just like, I get that, but I've watched my dad. We still don't know what he died from. He started getting sick, started losing weight, went to the doctors, and finally got bad enough that he just couldn't eat and hold anything down. So they put him in the hospital, and they're like, well, we'll put a feeding tube in him, and then we'll figure out what's wrong, and everything will be okay. And they couldn't figure it out, so they transferred him down to Herman Memorial down in Houston, because they thought it was cancer, but it wasn't cancer. All the tests come back negative. But he sat there on forced oxygen tube, a feeding tube going through his other nostril, down into his stomach, so they could try to feed him. And he just slowly withered away, and I'm just like, I don't want to go that way. I mean,
Make me comfortable.
I wouldn't be lights out.
Well,
But
I have my friend that died recently. I've known since junior high. He got sick, been healthy all his life. He was a smoker early on, but he stopped decades ago. thought it was pneumonia, because he's battled that on and on. And so he kind of worked through it, and it got to where he couldn't, he said, I gotta go to the doctor. They diagnosed it as lung cancer, blood cancer, lesions on the spine, AFib, and one other thing. And 2 weeks later, he was dead. We had texted on a Friday, and he was going, I'm going to rehab tomorrow. I'm up for the fight. And he was a Christian. He's the guy that had the barbecue ministry, smoker. He's fed 300,000 people in the last 20 years with his barbecue ministry. We texted Friday, he's up for the fight, and we talked back and forth. Tuesday, he was dead. And you just go, wow, this is devastating. And I can tell you, man, I've lived long enough. I'm okay with dying. Do I want to and be away from family? So the answer is no.
Right.
But when I get there, I'm not going to know about it, I'm not going to worry about it. I won't. I know who's going to be joining me, and I'm okay with being dead.
I'm not scared of dying either. I mean, I was in the hospital for COVID, and it was quite serious, you know, and then when my appendix ruptured, you know, the surgeon's telling Julie, it was pretty bad. I mean, he's lucky, you know, and I'm hard-headed enough that I know now that 2 months before that, I had a problem with my appendix, and I ignored it because I just thought it was constipation and belly pains and whatever. And I ordered me some Metamucil and some stool softener, and I just was like, I'll be okay, you know. Probably could have died then. And the second time, I mean, laying in bed now, I know that when I rolled over on my left side, it must have shifted something and pulled, and when it did, the appendix actually ruptured because it was just instant. Oh crap, something's wrong. And I got up and, you know, was sick to my stomach, and I knew something major was wrong, and you know, just dialed 911. But it was never, it was about the pain. It was never, if I dropped dead right then, you know, it'd been like, okay, you know, wasn't worried about that. It was the pain, and that's the thing is, I don't want to be sitting in a bed for months, hooked up to tubes, having machines keep me alive past the point of, you know, like I say, I can't talk to Julie about it because she won't listen to it, but it's like, you know, you go back 60, 80 years ago, and people just dropped dead. You know, didn't even know anything was wrong, just dropped dead. You know, maybe they felt bad, maybe they were, you know, I'm kind of weak or something like that. They didn't know that they had terminal illnesses, and they just, one day, just went to bed, didn't wake up the next morning or whatever, you know. The thought of being in a bed,
Wasting
peeing
away.
on myself or pooping on myself, and you know, not being able to take care of myself, and hooked up to a bunch of tubes. I hate the tubes. I hate the constant needle pokes and prods. I hate all that part. Like I said, if it just lights out, fine. I just don't want to live for extended amounts of time.
Well, if you get to the point where you and Julie can talk about it, I've got a guy that's a state lawyer that can deal with all of that stuff and handle how does the house proceed from there, and Lady Bird deeds and all that stuff. And that's one thing you need.
Text me his name because we've talked about that. I've got in my safe up in the top right corner, Julie knows where everything is. I've got a sheet of paper where I've written down. We've got the password apps. I've printed that out so she's got hard copies. I've got instructions on everything, where the deed of the house, you know, is, the loan paperwork, whatever. Everything's up there. The titles to the cars are up there. Birth certificates are up there. Everything's there. All she's got to do is pull that out. She's got everything she needs. But I'd like to make sure that, you know, nobody can somehow come along and snake her out of something, you know, or screw her over, because she'll have the house, she'll have all the cars, everything will be paid for. You know, if something happened tomorrow, you know, she's good, you know, and I've got life insurance that's paid to her both through work, and I've got external policy. So, you know, I've done everything I can do besides going to a lawyer and making everything official and putting it in black and white. And we need to do that.
This guy was a student of mine when I was at Robert E. Lee. great kid. Never saw him, you know. But Mary and I went to him. He was recommended to us, and that's all he does is estate things. And he helped get a ladybird deed to my mother's house. When she passed away, it immediately went to my brother and I. Didn't have to go through probate, and that house will have to go through probate. All that stuff, and I'm telling you, as young as you are, I wish I had done it earlier. But now I can say that if I were on the way home, taking you home, and we roll over and you're alive and I'm dead, my junk's taken care of. And that's not going to be a thing. That wouldn't be a thing I can do about it anyway. Mary's not going to have to worry about it.
Right.
We have one rule. And I think you ought to discuss this with your wives. The only rule is she cannot bring a date to the funeral.
Julie bring a day. I don't care. Whatever. He can't touch my guns.
He can't touch
The guns go to the kid.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's yeah.
It's definitely important. You know, my parents went all the way to the point where they actually bought their burial plots and paid for their funerals, like something like 20 years beforehand, which was genius because it was, I think, with the casket and everything, it already picked out the caskets, and it's like, no, we guarantee we'll have a casket, you know, for you. You buy a casket, you got a casket, you know, and they did all that stuff. So my mom didn't have to worry about any of that.
Yep.
But we went through a lot of crap with the house, which she didn't want anyway. So, but had she wanted to keep her house, we'd have been in a fight because I'm telling you, you don't think, you think, oh no, I've got good family members. Let me tell you something. They're a bunch of freaking vultures, and they turn just horrible at deaths. And that's why I said I walked into my grandfather when my grandfather passed away. I drove to Lufkin. Half my relatives had already beat me there, and went through the house looking for. He had a gold diamond encrusted watch that he got from Citgo when he retired from them, and they went after all that stuff. And I went in, and sitting on the bar, there was his wallet, his old junky, dirty Timex watch, and his case pocket knife. That knife and that watch were the only two things that I ever wanted. And I wanted my .22 that I grew up learning to shoot. And my uncle come in and got that so he could give it to his kids who never visited my grandparents ever. You know, I grew up with them until I was 13. It's like, y'all just dirty. He knew I wanted that gun, but
my brother let some of his friends, his wife's friends, his too, he let them come over and go through my parents' house. And
ooh, I've been hot about that.
He didn't tell me, and I pulled up, and they were there. And
did they get a Smith and Wesson?
well, they got. I was the executor of everything. He wasn't. He had no authority. Zero anything. And the wife hasn't spoken to me since. But I don't care about that.
I was going to say, is it really a bad thing?
It's not a deal.
I'd have lost my marbles.
Well,
on that.
I did, but I stayed under control. And they had junk in their vehicles. And I told him, he said, you get that crap unloaded, because it's our crap. It's in. And they didn't pull everything out.
Yeah.
I said, they cannot be here. And you know it. And that stayed between my brother and me as a barrier.
Yeah.
For 3 or 4 years. And we're just now getting to where we meet every couple of months or so. They had no kids. They chose not to have kids.
Yeah.
And they don't have anything to do with it because they want their life and what they're going to do. And kids would interfere with it, and they're just selfish.
I sat there and looked my brothers right in the eye and said, because they were there when my dad passed away. They were a few days later, as soon as my mom got back to her house, you know, from Houston, because they went to Houston. They live in Lufkin. And they're there wanting this or wanting that. And I was like, y'all do understand. She's not sitting there in rigor mortis, right? She's got a pulse. Everything in this house belongs to her. Not one thing in this house does not belong to her. It's all hers. Now, if she wants to give you anything, that's your business. And you know, of course, they were looking for what valuables, you know. And I had already told my mom, we were just talking at the hospital. She's like, well, you need to come down and get, you know, if something happens to your dad. I'm like, I don't want to hear this shit. All I want his work watch and his case knife, because I'm going to put it right beside Papa's. And so my brothers were like trying to talk to her. I found out about it because I had to go back to work, since I was one of the only ones that actually had a freaking job. Come to find out, they're down there telling her, oh, well, we can, you know, they wanted his truck, or one of them wanted his truck, and they were going to pick up payments. I'm like, they ain't paid nothing off in their entire life. They probably got like a negative 300 credit score. They're not, no. You're on the hook for that. No, we're selling the truck, we're selling the camper, we're selling the boat. If you want to give them some of the money from that, that's your business. I don't want a nickel of it. I'm going to help you get rid of it. And then when we sold the house, it was enough. She made enough money on it. She bought a trailer house and on a little piece of land because she couldn't keep up with the house. You know, she was constantly fixing things around the house or this or that. She just didn't want the upkeep on it. It's too big a house. And so I just want something simple, and that's that.
So these are things from experience. So y'all are young. It's a conversation you got to have,
Well, you know, it's
especially for your kids.
Yeah, especially for kids.
yeah, that's right now. That's our biggest hurdle is the boys, because we don't know who. If something were to happen to me and her, we don't know where we would want the boys to go, and we still have yet to figure that out. And it's primarily because of Jackson, because there's a 95% chance that Jackson will live with us his entire life. That's just the reality of it. And it's entrusting someone enough to care for him the way he needs to be cared for. And we don't want the grandparents to do it because we want them to be able to be grandparents. But at the same time, we don't have any close friends that
he's
we
going to
could
outlive them too.
Right.
You know, so that would be a temporary solution to a
right.
long-term problem. So
How old are David and Timothy?
Let's see. Wyatt turns 15 this year. My dad turns 65, so David turns 64 this year.
Well, I'll turn 72 this year, and I'll be, and I'm slowing down. I've never felt this deceleration in me at all until I turned 70. And I don't know if it was a mental thing or whatever it was, but
at that point, it's not just a number anymore.
You know, and my birthday is right before Christmas, and so I never got presents for each one of my birthday and Christmas, and I had to choose. And I always chose Christmas, so birthdays have never been a deal to me. You know, oh, I turned 40, oh. That was nothing. 60 was nothing. But 70, I don't know, there's something about it, but I can tell you right now, I am physically and mentally decelerating, and I know it. And Mary is the same thing. So we don't know what we're going to stay independent as long as we can, but there's part of the stuff that we do right now that we will not be able to keep up. And I know it. I've been doing my own yard since I was 6 years old, or my parents' yard, or whoever's yard, since I was 6 years old. I don't want to do it anymore. I physically can't. Some of the aspects of it I'm at a point where I admit that now, but I wouldn't earlier. But teaching class is an extreme effort for me. It's one that I want. I mean, I don't want to give that up. But it's different now than it was when I was teaching other Sunday school classes in other churches 10
Is
years
it
ago.
mental fatigue or physical?
I think that's part of it. And that's one reason why I want some people to teach class this summer. Give me a little bit of a break. I still like to prep. I still like to do. I still like to teach. None of that is lost.
Have you tried any of the nootropic supplements?
I don't know what those are.
So they make
Excuse me a
specific.
second.
Yeah.
I know we got. Are we doing this as our? Is this our topic that we're doing?
You
today?
know, it's been interesting enough. I was going to leave that up to y'all.
I'm fine with it.
I mean, it's life at this, and at this
So
point, we're
we-
discussing
we
things
jump in.
that.
Cover the world in 15, 20 minutes.
You'll
at the
have
end.
to. You'll have to delete one of the S words he said.
Yeah.
But outside of that,
You did.
you did.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. That's my bad. That gum. That was. I mean, that one was.
It was fluid. I mean, it was,
Just-
it was as fluid as it could have
Was it
been.
when I was talking about my brothers? Because that would make sense.
Probably, I think so. yeah.
Usually a head would come at the end of that word, but no. What I was going to tell you about is so after I got done with COVID, I had problems with my lungs for about a year after that, where I mean anything would get me winded quick, and so I was looking at supplements online. I found some that specifically target lung health. I was like, okay, well, I'll take those, and those helped. But long after COVID, I noticed that, man, I'd sit there and it'd just be talking to you and it'd be like, the book that we use in class to teach, and it just, I mean, I could sit there and grasp at it for 30 minutes and I could not say the word Bible. I mean, it was simple, stupid stuff. And before COVID at work, people come in and we make 180 different SKUs of product, roughly, maybe more than that. And they have a sizing option, like pants, do you wear 32, 34, 36, whatever. Well, the rotor, the part that goes internal, has a size to it called the peak to valley measurement, and then the stator has a stator minor, and you have to know those two, and the difference between those two tell you whether it's an interference fit or a loose fit. And they come in and go, hey, on the 3137825, what size rotor is that? What's a 18.75? 1.875. And I mean, I could do that for almost every product we made.
I mean, we knew that.
Yeah. Well, and even my boss, the engineer that designs these, couldn't do that, But I could, just because that's one thing that when I had trouble with math in elementary school, that was one thing my dad beat into me, was learning flashcard memorization, And so I was good at math. I could do math in my head. It made sense to me. So I was really quick with that. After COVID, I could barely tell you the part number, much less the fits of the measurements of the stuff. And so doctor put me on temporarily on Ritalin, just thinking, well, we'll see if this helps. And sure enough, for like 3 hours, I was golden. I was back to my old self, but then it wore off on me really, really fast. It's supposed 15 milligrams or 10 milligrams, whatever it was supposed to be a 24-hour pill.
And so
It is like 3 hours.
Women Ritalin has a short half-life, which is why when it first came out, and a lot of kids with ADHD were put on it, I had a morning dose, a lunch dose, and an after-school dose.
Yeah.
Because the half-life was about 3 hours.
That's all it worked on me.
And before you would have to redose and redose.
When the crash for me was brutal.
Yes.
I'm talking about, I'd be on that couch asleep, I'd be in my office like this, somebody walk in, and I mean, I'm almost out. you know. And so anyway, that didn't work. So I'm big on supplements. I'm big on natural remedies. And so I started researching it, found out about nootropics. And there's a ton of companies out there. Half of them are junk and don't do anything. You know, they go, oh, we got L-theanine and blah, blah, blah in it. And it's like, yeah, okay, been there, done that. None of it works. And I kept trying different things, and I come across one, Genius Powder was the first one I got. Scoop in your water bottle. It has caffeine in it, so I'd get that jet start. You know, boy, I'd be good up till lunch. But I didn't have the crash after lunch. I would definitely settle down and not quite have as much energy. But taking the nootropics, and I've been on them ever since COVID. So it's been, 6 years now? And all the supplements I take, because I like taking fruits and vegetables, because I don't think we get enough in our diet. We don't always cook. We eat a lot of fast food because I'm always on the road. And so I'm a big believer in supplements. So I take fruits and vegetables in the morning. I take my nootropic in the morning. I've got a beets pill. I forget what it's called, but it puts more oxygen in your blood, gives you better blood supply, and I've been able to cut down on my blood pressure medicine with it. And so, but the nootropics is the big thing for me, because that's probably the most expensive supplement I buy. It costs me about, I think it's around $60 a month for it. And, but I've tried saying, well, I'm going to get off all my supplements, because I probably spend $180 on supplements every month. That's like, well, you know, we need to cut back, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, 3 days after starting taking them, I might as well have been put on a football helmet and started licking the glass on the bus, because I was worthless. And I'll cut that one out. I didn't think that one all the way through.
That one made me laugh.
Somebody like that.
Well, I did, as a matter of fact.
That one made me laugh. I just quit bringing it up.
But anyway, nootropics, and the thing is, your body will get acclimated to them. So, like, I've got 3 different go-tos. I can send you links because they're all in my Amazon saved cart. But so about every 6 months, I'll switch to a different brand, start taking it for about 6 months, and I'll switch to my 3rd one. Then I can go back to the first one, and so I just cycle them out. But it makes all the difference of the world for me, and just gives you that mental clarity and removes the brain fog. So
Yeah, I'm starting to forget words.
Yeah.
It's hard sometimes. And I'll think, and I'll think, and I'll think, and I can't do it. That's why I have so many notes on when I'm teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I can teach off the cuff, but I can't apply the depth sometimes
Without the notes.
without notes. And if I got notes, just those little reminders, then I can go.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the same. And so I know that I'm different. And my dad,
so let me ask you this, and we'll go back to talking about the wheels and stuff, and it's mainly, I really don't know your child aspect of things like I do theirs with Chloe. How did, if and you said you really won't talk about it, but y'all discuss when she was small, if something happened to y'all?
Oh yeah, no, she'll talk about preparedness. She just don't want to talk about my views on what I want done if something were to happen to me that left me
incapacitated,
not fully in control. She don't want to have that conversation. But as far as, no, we knew Julie's sister Amanda,
Mm-hmm.
the 2 girls, we had all talked one time and agreed, it was just going to be a seamless transition. Chloe'd either go there or the girls come here. That was easy. If something happened to both of us, we have cousins in Oklahoma that we said, they'll definitely go there as option B.
Okay.
So The main thing is, what you want to look at is Heather going to keep the house? Is she going to be able to keep the house? Do you have life insurance to pay off the house? Do you have, what about the vehicles? Is she going to be taking care of what's going to fall apart that she's not going to be willing to focus on because she just lost her husband? So you want to make sure that it's a seamless and it's pain free for her. She's not having to deal with a bunch of stupid stuff while she's trying to grieve,
Because she will have to.
and she'll have to, right?
There won't be a choice.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you've got that laid out. Like with my main life insurance policy, it goes to Julia. And if something happened to both of us, then obviously it goes to Chloe. It's put in a trust until she's 21, because when they're under the age of 21, you can't leave certain things to them. And so on my life, I've got an accidental life policy through my company. It's only $50,000, but still, that was always told Julie, the big life insurance policy goes to you. It's going to cover. At the time when we first got it, we were just 5 years into the house, so there's still a long time to finish line, but we're close enough now that she'd be able to keep most of it, and do whatever she wanted with it, But the $50,000 goes directly to Chloe 100%. You can go in and you can structure it so they've got to where beneficiary 1 gets 75%, beneficiary 2 gets 25%, or whatever, however you want to structure it. But my main concern, and still to this day, and this is what I tell Julie, we're not selling our house. I'm not starting a new mortgage payment, nothing. That's hers. And hopefully Abbott reaches down, grabs a handful of hair, and yanks his head out of his rear end and follows suit with Ron, who in Florida is fixing to do away with property taxes for homeowners, and then that way you do own your home, you own your land, when it's paid off, it's yours. They can't get it from you, no way, no how, and that's the way it should be. But you just want to make sure that whatever you do, you're making that as seamless for them and as less a headache as possible. And of course, if something were to happen to you and Heather, what are y'all going to do with the boys? What's going to happen to the boys?
Unfortunately, I think that's what's got us at a stopping point, because we honestly can't figure out where the boys would go. I mean, Wyatt will be 15 this year, and poor kid, when he was born, and probably his first 2 women years of his life, this is going to sound bad, but was bounced around from house to house to house to house, because I was working at 2 to 3 stations, working overtime here and there, and she worked a rotating shift. So in between daycares and grandparents' house and our house, and so Wyatt, it's, hey, you're staying here for whatever, and he's like, okay, he just goes. It doesn't faze him. But when Jackson came along and, things kind of slowed down, I went, at that point, I went to just one station, one city, and I slowed way down on how much I was working. And then we realized that Jackson, on the autism scale, was a lot lower than Wyatt's is. So I don't know how well y'all really know Wyatt, but up here he's, for the most part, quiet. He keeps to himself. But I tell people, I say at home, we live with Sheldon. So if you've watched The Big Bang Theory or Young Sheldon, that's how our life with him has been. I mean, it's either wrong or right. There is no gray. It's this or this. That's just how he is. But with Jackson, it's always been a different struggle because by the time he came along, we had a steady schedule. She was 8 to 5. I was only working every third day. And so he didn't move around as much as Wyatt did. So he's really found grounded in being at home. And then with everything we found out as he grew, our biggest concern is him. It does look like that as things go on and time goes on. Caleb, our hope for him as time goes on is that he will grow and come into and be his brother's keeper. Because within the next 18 months, Caleb is going to surpass, if not drastically surpass, Jackson in cognitive function and physicality and all that. That's just the fact of our life. And so we just haven't figured out really what it boils down to is who we trust enough to take care of Jackson the rest of his life like we would. And the biggest thing to us as well is a Christian and church community. We want, even if something were to happen to me and her, we want the boys to continue on as close to a routine as they have now. And that's just where our foundation lies. And it's really come about these past 4 or 5 years, and before Caleb, it's our growth and our walk with Christ and our coming out into this church and community has really grown and expanded, because what most people don't know is we've been a part of this church this May-June time frame. We've been here for 19 years. It was not until about 4 years ago that people knew we were here. We just came, and I mean, we had our class and the people in our class, but as a whole, we didn't know anyone outside of our class. Nobody knew us. Our jobs were always keeping us busy and going, and we just didn't really exist in the church until a few years ago. I want that to continue with the boys. And
well, I'll say this. I think you're both on the right track, but just eventually it's going to have to be written down.
And we've discussed that too.
And a large part of it can be written down by you, and I'd get it notarized and all that kind of stuff, make it as official as possible.
Well, I can't notarize myself.
Well, then tell Heather what to write. Instead of write it down, then you notarize it.
I didn't know if you know a good Rotary or not, but
No, I don't.
then you're going to have to lawyer up at some point. And I wish that, well, Mary and I did this after we first got married, which was good. But things have changed, and we know we need to go back. We've made some amendments to it, but now we've got to have some financial things added to it, and so we want to prepare for that. And I can't express to the audience the need, especially if you're in Christ and you are a Christian, that you do need to prepare for your children or your grandchildren if you're keeping them. You need to provide for their needs, because God has us here for a certain amount of time, and we're here to be of service to Him. And it's not like we're chattel and just a toy to use and throw away. God has specific purposes for our lives. And when we have honored that and it's finished, we're gone. Like my buddy Steve, that I told you about a moment ago. This guy was a dynamo. And that's, I think, not even a reflective adjective for him. He was much more than that. But his life, from knowledge to gone, was less than 2 weeks, or right at 2 weeks. And you need to be prepared for that. Part of your legacy and your first legacy is your life in Christ. And for those of the Christian people who are listening, yes, if you're a Christian, you've got that in order, and that's fine and dandy, but you still need people behind you. And there's still God that's saying, when I call you home, it's time. God is sovereign, and all these billions of little pieces of information that are coming in, He knows what they are, and He has a plan that includes our death. He knows the time and place. We have to be prepared, not for us, but for those we leave behind. And whatever legacy, and I want my legacy to be to know Christ and to make Him known. And I want people to understand that the best that I can, and being the frail human that I am. And I just can't express enough. There is expense. It's worth it to do. And to have the planning, to have it done, and then you can go on. But our life in Christ is the most important thing we do. What we think about God and what we know about God, those are the most important things in our lives. We've all had careers and do have careers. That's nothing. And I'm on the backside of that, and I can say it. It was harder to see when I was on the front side.
I agree with that.
Very, very difficult to see. But God preserved me. He preserved Mary. And we love being grandparents. But it's not just all fun and games. There's parts of life that we have to go and do adult things with. And this is one of them. But your life in Christ is wrapped up in Him and His identity and His sovereignty over our lives. If we we've given that over to Him. That we do what Christ wants us to do. We live, we shine, we preach the gospel in our lives and with our voices, but we provide for those that stay afterwards. Eventually, this world that we live in is going to go away. Now, the physical is gone, and we're going to be left standing before God. And are we going to be a sheep or are we going to be a goat? Which one are we going to be? And separating us. And I want to enter eternity knowing that I'm going to stand before Christ. And I don't have to worry about that because I am redeemed. I am justified. I'm all those big fancy words that doctrinal words that we learn, theology words that we learn in class. But they have meaning, real meaning in our lives and in what happens with us. And if nothing else from this thing, do right by your Maker. Live for Christ. And make sure your family has that foundation. And that's one thing I do struggle with. A lot of my family has left the church behind. And that's not where I want them. But that's God's sovereignty. And I do what I can to share that with them. So, I don't want this to be a morbid thing. I don't feel like it is, but somebody out there may feel like it is. This is reality.
It's
of our
real.
life in
Yeah,
Christ.
I mean, it's unfortunately from the moment you're born, you start dying. I mean, that's your clock starts ticking at that and at that point, and it's. And like you said, I don't have a fear of death. And I don't know if it's because I have peace about death or if it's that I've been around so much death or whatever it may be. But I know that where I sit now, the moment I exhale my last breath, I will stand before the throne the next beat. And I find comfort in that. I know that I know that there are some people that even as a Christ follower and are firm and do believe that still fear death. And I was looked on. I don't want to say looked down on, but I was looked at differently even during the height of COVID because I wasn't scared of it. If I got it and that was the end of my life story, that was planned out thousands of years ago. There's nothing I can do about that. I can't change that. And I was looked at weird for it because it just, why worry about something you literally have zero control? And that's just the way my brain worked, and it still does. And like I said, I don't know why I don't know if it's the experiences I've had, or I want to say I know it's my relationship with Christ that gives me that lack of fear for it. But I honestly don't know if I can say that. But I do find comfort knowing that to be dead in the body is to be with Christ.
It is.
And I find comfort in that. But it's like you said, leaving behind all those who are still here, who even for the ones who know that you were in Christ, who have no doubt where you're going to be, and death is still a hard thing. I mean, it's not that it's easy for us to deal with, but I don't know. I've always, from as far back as I can remember, have just viewed death differently than the majority of people I've been around. And
So what's
it's
the
the biggest
bottom,
thing.
What's the bottom line for you, as far as what message would either one of you give to people in the audience? Like I wouldn't plan on giving a message to them, but if I did.
Mine would be just believe Christ is who he is, and believe in the resurrection, and as Paul said in Romans 10, it is as simple as believing in your heart and your mind that Christ is who he claimed to be, and who these men wrote about and lived with and walked with and saw the resurrected King. You will be with Christ in eternity.
Believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead.
Right.
Yeah.
And after that, it's find a way in your mind to have solace in that death is a real thing, if you want to accept it or not, because I know there's some people who just refuse to talk about death in any shape, form, or fashion. I hate to break it to them, but it's going to happen. But to find solace in the fact and find comfort in the fact that I know when I take my last breath, I will be with Christ in glory on streets of gold with Moses and Abraham. And
So what's your reply to being ready for death?
I would say that, on top of everything that you guys have said, obviously have faith in Jesus that, what he told you was going to happen is going to happen. And as kind of a party gift for his preparedness, he left us the gift of the Holy Spirit. I think it's our responsibility to make sure that as Christian men, as the Bible tells us to, leave the best inheritance. And we're not just talking about a bag of gold in the safe. We're talking about leaving our faith with our family members and making sure that they're taken care of as best we possibly can. And I don't think it's just a responsible thing to do. You wanted to talk about the world, and I think that that's one of the things that you could hit on is the world tells you, oh, well, you need a 401k, oh, you need this, oh, you need that. And I think you do, but I think you need to have it as a responsibility as a Christian man to take care of your family the best you can and be as prepared as possible. And I want Julie to deal with as little as she has to, so where she could just grieve and not have to worry about, I lost my husband, now I'm going to lose my house, and they're going to come get the cars, and what are we going to do? I want to leave her in the best possible condition I can for that blink of an eye until she joins me, until Chloe joins me, until my grandkids join me, and just be prepared. I think that's something that not a lot of people focus on. Is the Bible tells us how to be financially in our life, how to be responsible in our life, how to take care of our families, and I think that's something that is on us to do. So,
And it honors God.
and it honors God. Absolutely.
So what are you going to call this episode?
I don't know.
Real talk.
Basically, I mean, it's realistically how much of the front am I going to cut, or is this just going to be an unfiltered
There
Unfiltered.
version? Thank you, Shane.
you go.
But I did have this plan about how to, explain this immoral, moral, spiritual world to people who don't believe and who don't have, just for comfort's sake, a religious background,
Mhm.
and who are of the world, or as some people would say, still plugged in. And realistically, looking back at what we've discussed, I don't even know how long it's been. It's been a while.
We're a little over an hour.
But the fact of death is something that I fear the majority of people don't consider. They live their life. It's just one day. It's day after day after day after day. There's a monotony to it, and there's no grander picture to where with me, my grand picture is knowing that I'm going to be with Christ. B, I want to know that when the time comes, my wife and boys are going to be with Christ.
Mhm.
My family is involved in that, but to do as Christ tells us to do is to go and to share his message, to share his miracles and his works and his actions, and to show him through us. And that's really, that's it. But as far as the world, I really do think that death is just something that is either looked over as a whole, or is used in a cynical way to make a point. And my death, while it will affect few, is going to take me home. What you find?
Romans 8:37. 8:38. For I am sure, I am convinced, that it says in other translations, for I am convinced that neither death nor life, nor angels, nor rulers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor heights, not depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of Christ, the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. So, for me, that wraps up a lot.
To answer your initial question, would that separate you? And the answer is no.
Ooh,
Good.
the answer is no. And but we have to belong to Jesus for all that to happen. And I think today was a good thing. And one of the things we could do is tell Scott next week that we did all the heavy lifting this week, and then give